Listen, I'm not here to tell you that living with ADHD isn't a struggle. It's classified as a disability for a very good reason. But there are also some things that I honestly love about my ADHD brain and other ADHD brains. And because there's just so much information out there about all the struggles that come with ADHD, I wanted to spend some time today to shout out the positives. And my two very favorites are at the end, so stick around. If you're new here, I'm Tiff, absent-minded professor of neurobiology. I was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 37, and I'm on a mission to empower adults who are overwhelmed by the chaos of work, family, and life in general to confidently manage their ADHD symptoms so that they can work with their own unique brains in order to build a life that they love. So let's go. It's very easy to feel less than when you have ADHD. You're reminded daily of all of the things that you struggle with that the rest of the world looks like they perform with seeming ease. And if you measure your own success by whether you consistently clean your house, or you're a Pinterest mom, or you can remember what happened 5 minutes ago, or ever, that's a recipe for self-hatred and misery. I have definitely had so many points in my own life where I just want to scream in frustration because everything is hard and I'm so annoyed with my brain. But I have also spent a lot of time sort of getting to know myself and observing how my own brain works. And what that's let me do is see that as a whole, in addition to the struggles, there are a lot of things that I actually really like and appreciate about the way that my brain works. And by noticing and acknowledging those and feeling satisfied with those traits, it's allowed me to operate mostly, or at least most of the time, from a place of hope and optimism instead of a place of kind of misery and helplessness. And that feeling of hope and optimism about the future is a thing that I want all people with ADHD to be able to feel about their own life and their own brains. And so I'm hoping there are things in this video that you can find in yourself that you see as strengths. And I would also love it if you would share in the comments things that you like about your own brain or that you find as strengths that you think come from your ADHD as well. Okay, first one, innovative thinking, resourcefulness, and creativity. Okay, your brain, if you have ADHD, likely thinks outside the box. You're probably able to make connections very easily that other people may not see right away. People with ADHD are able to find creative solutions to problems and also bring ideas that might seem impossible to fruition. In other words, people with ADHD make things happen. People with ADHD don't necessarily think in sort of a standard or a linear way, possibly because we can't remember how we're supposed to think about any given thing at any given time. And we don't necessarily feel the need to adhere to a certain way of thinking or a certain order of doing things. This lets us see patterns, connections, solutions, and opportunities that honestly not everyone can see. So as a scientist, this has let me discover things about our brain and our nervous system that people hadn't thought of before, which is pretty cool. So because of these traits, people with ADHD are often intensely creative in a lot of different ways. And you hear creativity offered as sort of a consolation prize for having ADHD when people talk about the positive traits. But they talk about creativity a lot because it's true, right? You think outside the box because you don't acknowledge the box a lot of times. I love not acknowledging the box. People might think I'm weird or dreaming too big or whatever because they don't know that something is possible. And that's okay because I do. And that sort of weird random ability to make connections and not think in a linear way is something I really love about my own brain. And I love that about the people I know that have ADHD as well. So the second one is that we feel emotions very intensely. And I'm sure like me, a lot of you have experienced the negative side of this, where you feel negative emotions very intensely. But we often feel positive emotions very intensely too. People with ADHD are often emotionally vulnerable and compassionate and genuine. And I think that these are all really amazing qualities to have as a human. And I love that I feel positive emotions very intensely. I get excited about some of the dumbest things. And I love that for me. I love loving what's happening kind of on the regular on any given day. And so the more I learn to manage sort of my communication, my negative self-talk, and my boundaries, the more I am finding that the positives are outweighing the negatives, and that this ability to feel emotion so deeply is really more of a positive than a negative. But it's taken a lot of work. Before I go on to the next one, if you're getting value out of this, I would very much appreciate it if you could like and subscribe to this channel. It's a new growing channel, and so your support really means a lot. So the third one is that when we are interested in something, we can work harder and faster than anybody else on the planet. Tell me if this is true for you, but I have found hyperfocus to be like one of my favorite things about my brain. Over the years, I've gotten pretty good at leaning into this and also just setting myself up to be able to get into a more hyper-focused state more often. And this has really helped me sort of both succeed and also just perform well under pressure or under tight deadlines. And so like hyper-focus, I think, is a really good trait when you can learn to channel it towards things that kind of move you in the direction you want to be going. As a side note, for all of you out there that have feelings like you might be lazy if you're having trouble initiating something, take those times where you've spent literally 24 hours straight doing something and achieving it as evidence that you are not lazy and you're not afraid of hard work. You just have an interest-based nervous system that needs to be excited about the outcome in order to get started. Okay, now for my two favorites. Hyperfocus was almost on that part of the list, but these two are really my favorites. Number 4, we are willing to take risks. So impulsivity is, of course, a symptom of ADHD and can go in a very bad direction. However, the willingness to do something impulsive that's a little bit scary, that might get you ridiculed, or that you might be afraid to do, but you do it anyway, that, my friends, is actually bravery. And it is something that I really appreciate about my ADHD. I'm someone that struggled for a long time with self-image and worrying, and still worrying about what people are going to think about me. And my ADHD lets me want the outcome of whatever crazy idea I had enough to do it anyway, even if I'm not sure if I'm going to succeed or I'm scared of what people will think. Like starting a YouTube channel and being afraid of being ridiculed by the internet, right? Doing it anyway because I'm on a mission. And ADHD is what lets me do things like that in spite of being scared. So I appreciate that my impulsivity actually makes me brave and willing to go for big things that I might otherwise be too scared to even try. So the fifth one, my other favorite, is that people with ADHD are incredibly resilient humans. Because living with ADHD is so hard on a daily basis, your resilience muscle, your ability to deal with, overcome, and do anyway in spite of like experiencing hard things, is going to be very strong. And it's something I appreciate very much about having had ADHD and the fact that I'm used to some baseline level of struggle. Because now, as I've learned to better manage my energy and organize my life and free up some of the energy I used to spend doing all of those hard things that are now starting to feel easier, my resilience is still really high. And I can use that to overcome challenges that aren't related to ADHD and take on new challenges that I'm choosing to take on. So I tell you all of this not to imply that everything to do with ADHD is a gift or a superpower. Truly, there is so much that is hard and exhausting and a struggle with ADHD. And that's always going to be true. But I feel like if we have to live with something for the rest of our lives, then there's also a huge benefit to identifying what might be good or helpful, enjoyable, or positive about this condition that we have to live with and the way that our brains are wired. And what I've tried to do is identify those positive things in whatever area of my life they're really obvious, and take them and apply them to other parts of my life to make other parts of my life more enjoyable or work better, and start to free up energy to do other things instead of struggling with whatever I was struggling with. So we can use some of these things to our advantage and start to generalize them to other parts of our life. But first, We have to notice them. And then we have to figure out how we can generalize them to other areas of our lives. So let me know in the comments what you think your strengths are that come from your ADHD and your struggles as well. And there's a link in the description below to sign up for my email list. Truly, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.